Welcome to Rambling of a Madman. In this episode, I was thinking to ramble on about the global warming and the politics that is surrounding global warming. Well, it's 2020 and things have changed. Global warming is not in the news cycle as much as it was last year. But things haven't changed. Once in a while, some news breaks out complaining the effects of global warming about the disaster that happened. So, looking at such news today, I was thinking about what is the progress of global warming, or actually what is the politics behind global warming. The news was about wildfires that are raging on in record levels in United States, western western west coast actually, and that got me thinking: is it global warming, or is it just a hoax, or is it something that is being created by one set of people to get profited and the other set of people not to? Or is this a real scientific thing that is affecting all of humanity and we need to act upon it? What are the politics? Because it seems even the most advanced societies of humanity during this time is divided into two factions, where people who believe in global warming and the others aren't. It is a strange phenomena, because if science is backing up every data and information that is out there, and effects of global warming is to be seen, and why can't humans in total understand the situation that we are facing, or what are the actual problems that are there in trying to control global warming itself? Is it a political thing, or is it an economic thing, or what is the truth and the myth behind global warming? So, simply trying to define global warming or climate change is simply taking the greenhouse gas effect. Basically, the greenhouse effect is what happens in your greenhouse, in how you keep you warm inside your greenhouse in the winter. This method is used in even large scale to produce necessary food to the society. This is not something new, this is an old concept that is there. So, putting global warming into the most simplest aspect, because we are releasing lot of gas particles, especially carbon dioxide and other many gas particles, due to our from the time of industrial revolution and to now, we use to burn things to create energy. The more developed we got, the more we have to burn for coal power plants, to in the combustion engines in our vehicles. We need fuel to burn and to thrive and to make our economy work, to make our society work, so on and so on, to move forward. And this releases harmful gases into the air. These gases are harmful for human body as well, and what they do is more gas ending up in air, which is like carbon dioxide. They consume the energy that is they are dropping down on earth from sun's rays. So rather than these sunlight coming totally through the atmosphere into the earth, they will be absorbed by these molecules in the air. Thus, the our atmosphere will get heated, and our planet will act as a large greenhouse where the temperature will increase due to this reason. So more particles, especially particles that can absorb sun's energy a lot, like carbon dioxide and methane, when it goes into the atmosphere, the more the possibilities there are for the temperature to increase. And scientists have calculated that mostly after the industrial revolution, which started from Britain and is there for now close to 500 years, we have added more particles into the air than ever before, especially carbon dioxide, thus helping the warm up process of the atmosphere or the earth. And this will give negative effects. And the scientists are fearful of these negative effects. But the more we seem to get developed, the more things we have to burn to match our demand for energy. And ironically, deforestation is another part of it. So these carbon dioxide molecules will be not processed back into solid matter where it can provide less harm for the human society when coming into the topic of global warming. Right now we are at a point that our economy or our technology is not enough to stop global warming immediately. So thus we are expecting an increase of uh, our temperature, averages of our temperatures by 1 or 2 degrees when in the future coming years. It seems like it's not a big deal, couple of degrees, but the difference is immense. Think of boiling of water in a kettle in normal atmospheric pressure. When water jumps from 99 degrees Celsius to 100, that just 1 degree difference is enough to change the status of water entirely, making it boil and turn into a gas. That is, the difference is 1 degree. So there are many things that are influenced on earth, especially the fragile nature that we have. 1 degree will change a lot of things. And always Mother Nature will be looking to bring things into a neutral level. But being humans, we will not go or live with the nature. We will try to get use out of nature, but not try to live in harmony. So neutralization of things will cost humanity a lot. And the end results that are coming out of this global warming, even by 1 or 2 degrees, is very large, and we don't have the capability to adapt to such drastic changes in few years. So what are the things that are there that will affect humanity in the long run? The problem is that most of us are immune to what's happening around us. We don't think about the food that we get or the rising tide or the floods if it doesn't affect us. There are a few examples that can be given pretty easily. One of the things is an increase in temperature will destroy crops and vegetation, more crops getting destroyed because more water is evaporated, and plants not being able to grow when the heat is too much will create desert like areas, and more than that will affect our production of food. More evaporation, less rain will create situations in some parts of the world where droughts and hunger, famine will be a new normal. But as we know, the economic situations of most countries does not allow to make quick changes in a drastic level, and that will affect humanity a lot. Or another thing is a couple of degrees of warmth, as I told you, as well as boiling. Melting of ice is also affected by 1 degree, and when 1 degree or two changes, melting of ice becomes a very rapid thing, and the north and the south pole have the capability of producing enough water from ice to increase the sea levels, which will affect many high profile cities around the world, and thus trying to keep the rising water away from these cities will come at a cost. This will affect the society as a whole. Then, of course, the changing of weather patterns. If you remember 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and now, those weather patterns which were there a long time ago is not there anymore. And weather patterns are things that farmers and, well, people who make basic necessities for the country, especially food, water, uh, depends on. Rain at the proper time will uh, keep on drinking water flowing for people in cities and towns, making them possible to function without any problem at all. But rains not coming in proper time, or even the drought because of increase in temperature, would immensely affect cities and towns, which are not planned for such drastic changes. Well, one of the best examples that can be given is the Mayan civilization, which the data we have today shows that one of the reasons for a beautiful, great civilization like that to fall is because of lack of water. Though with the technology we have today, we don't think about that part of it. We open a tap and water is there. We have proper drinking water in every household, in every shop. Access to water is plentiful. But what if is the question, because right now sources that are making water have the ability to generate enough water to meet the necessary needs of a city. What if an extreme drought comes in due to global warming, changing of the atmosphere, and this source of water dries out? What will happen next? Will other countries supply enough water to maintain a large city, maybe like New York, Beijing, Tokyo? Who knows? So effects of global warming can be uh, explained, and examples can be given on and on and on. Global warming and climate change, whatever you want to call it, is a real thing. Now, but we have to talk about the politics of it, because while a set of people, a group of people believe in climate change and global warming, the rest of the world does not. There are two factions, thus making it a political issue. Politicians exploit this division to take votes to their side, and because people are taking two sides of this situation, even when coming into radio stations or TV channels or programs on this matter, catering for both sides will bring immense profit. So in a capitalistic world, if there's a division which can be exploited for money, that will be done. So whether we like it or not, there is a faction that will not believe in climate change. So the first question that is needed to be asked is, why should you worry about climate change? If you are worried, then your family will be worried. Then your neighbors maybe get worried, then the society, then the country. Then why should the society, why should the country, why should the world must be worried about this? Normally, when talking about climate change and global warming, there is one faction that talks about man-made global warming and man-made climate change, which the argument goes as, because of the activities that have been carried out by humans throughout the years had resulted in this climate change and global warming. Many examples, many papers, many researchers have been done and have proven that there is a significant effect of human behavior on this matter. There's another faction that says this global warming and climate change is not because of human activities, but because of activities that is there by the tilt of the earth, or the traveling of the earth around, or solar cycles, how the sun is active or not, depending on that sun's activities, so on and so on. They say it's a natural occurrence. And there's the other faction who doesn't believe in global warming at all, and well, very hard to justify what they are saying or what they want to say. But we don't know. Proving that global warming and this global warming is there, or climate change is there, is right now in 2020 is not a thing that people should worry about. Because if you take the ice caps, they are melting. That is for sure. You can see the photographs, you can see the measurements that have been taken, and you can see it with your own eyes that ice is melting. You can see with your own eyes that the sea levels are rising. If you are living in a coastal area, you know this. If you are not, you can ask from anybody who's living in a coastal area for maybe 10-20 years and ask them the difference between then and now, and they will provide evidence. No need to believe in that global warming is happening or not. These changes are taking effect because of global warming or not. Whatever people want to believe, these changes are happening. Colder winters, hotter summers, especially if you see the countries that are there in the equator area, which is suffering immensely from heat because of this change. Farmers, cultivators know this more than anything. Global warming or not, one thing we can be sure of, that there is change happening, and that change is affecting humanity badly. So the conclusion is there is a large amount, a big majority that believes that there is changes in the climate. Whether it is from global warming or not is a different story, but there are changes in the climate, and it is mostly affecting negatively on society. So most of them will agree to stop those things, but the problem, the political issue would be there been coming to see what's the problem, what's the cause for all these. So then comes the topic of politics when coming into global warming or climate change and so on and so on. Before going into a global political stage, we will look at the personal politics or something like that for the initial steps. How does it affect personally for a human being? First, part of this division between people with different ideas, it is partially a fault of the education system that we have. People who are in charge of education, and mainly scholars, were not able to come up with a proper answer, a clear answer and a clear voice to answer the problem and to educate the society. It is something like gravity, nobody disagrees with gravity. It's there, and it is properly the education is there properly about what's going on. It's the same for if you take the east and the west, north and the south, the directions we all agree upon. We don't clash on that. Long time ago the standards were set. All these standards and everything, to set them up, there are institutions, there are scholars where their job is that. But when coming into climate change, there is no one voice to be seen, and there's no proper education that is given, because we are been talking about climate change and global warming for more than a decade now. At least the high school students that are there right now should be studying properly about climate change and global warming and how it happens and so on, with facts and figures properly given. It's not happening. So this is one of the things that is there. So the division, the rift is being politicized, but the rift is caused because of different reasons. So I told you, like, we will first look at the personal reasons, personal politics. The number one cause would be the education, and the information is not correctly relayed by any institution that is responsible for that, for the people. The second would be, of course, the job you are doing, the income that you are taking in. Well, this is a very personal matter. To pay your mortgage, to pay your rent, to put a roof over your children, to take medicine when needed. Everything comes from your monthly income. And if you're a worker who's in a oil rig, or if you're a worker who's working in a mine digging for coal, destruction of those businesses or dismantling of those businesses for the greater good of the society is a thing that will be hard to digest, because personally, for that person, global warming or not, his life is under severe threat if these things just go away. Think of a civil engineer, think of a coder. If somebody says we are stop going to construct buildings from today onwards, or somebody going to say there's going to be no more codes being coded from today on, what will happen to them? The feeling is the same for people who are engaged in these jobs. For them, they didn't have a choice. These are not huge corporate. There will be a axeman who's logging in forests, and so on and so on, and all their lives they might be doing this one. There would be small companies that generation to generation passed on, maybe working or maintaining oil rigs, giving support for big companies on oil rigs, logging, or uh, uh, mining for coal, and so on and so on. Towns and small towns, small cities were built by these things, and there are many people who are depending, like, to put food on their table. They're depending on these things. So here in itself lies a division. They might understand that what they are doing is wrong, but they don't have a choice. So naturally they will go to protect their way of income. So this is one of the main reasons that politicians or decision makers around the world, there is a group of people who shout saying that this global warming is there, it is a responsibility to protect humanity. That's in the long term, but in the short term, shutting down everything and stopping income for a person, it will personally affect that person, and here in it itself lies the personal politics. You cannot blame a person who's working in a coal mine or maintaining an oil rig if he says stopping these things is not good, or start lobbying to the shouting towards the other side, if he doesn't believe in global warming, because for him, that is him or her who's working there to put food on the table. For that person, it's everything. think of you losing your job today, and if you are not qualified to do anything else, you have to find the same job. But then you find out that type of jobs are keep on uh, dismantling one by one. There will be no jobs at all. Here you have a laborer with particular set of skills that is not in use anymore. Think about that personally, how it would affect a person. So their extraction of oil itself is a global process, and lot of people, lot of companies, lot of lives, lot of children's education, lot of healthcare, lot of uh, you know livelihoods depend on this. And those people, for them, maybe whether they like it or not, the number one thing is they have to protect their way of income. So how there should be proper methods of dealing with these things. That's number one, the main key issue when coming into effect against global warming and things personally. How a person would personally reject these global warming concepts and climate change concepts, because these are our personal reasons. Then the next one would be, you might be not personally affected at all, and you will be not thinking about global warming, you will be not thinking about, because if you are a person who's not living in a very harsh environment, or if you are not a person who's having problem getting access to water, electricity, food, and essential supplies, especially if you are living in a main city, you will not feel the problem of global warming that much. But if you are a person who's living in a coastal area or something, then you will personally feel that when your property start to get washed into the ocean and something personal effect, then you will start to feel it. But till then you will not feel it at all. So tackle it. So for that person who's living in a city, who is still sheltered from these effects, will be a neutral person who will not shout for change, because he doesn't see, he or she who's living in the city will not see the importance of this global warming and change. This is one of the things, because it global warming and climate change won't be a personal problem for them. And for the others who are living near the sea, or where their properties are getting destroyed, or if they are getting sick, or their crops are going down, getting destroyed by the harsh weather conditions, for them it is personal, and they will shout towards global, to stop global warming. They will shout towards that side. So there's little by little, these personal effects will create a rift in the society, where politicians take advantage of that, as for sure that is politics. Then of course the two sides of the spectrum is created by the new jobs that are created and the new jobs that are destroyed, the jobs that have been destroyed and the jobs that have been created, the businesses that have been created and the businesses that have been destroyed by global warming and climate change. Industries such as solar panel development, wind power, alternative energy, these companies that are going towards that side would lobby against global warming and climate change, while companies who are getting like affected positively from climate change and global warming will lobby to against uh, to keep these regulations and stuff which is already there, not to change them. They will lobby for no change. For example, uh, the the upper sheets layers of in Canada, the upper layers of ice are melting away, thus creating a new path for shipping routes. And people who are going to earn money out of that likes global warming. There are people who are waiting to mine resources in the North Pole, South Pole, likes global warming. They will rally for global warming. So again, that the economic factors here will affect the tourists. So these examples that I kept on giving is that in a personal perspective, how these two factions are made. These two factions are just made not because of there are a set of people who believe in global warming and doesn't. There are many factors that get involved. For some, it is in a personal level. Let's look at in a national level, country wise, society wise, and how does that creates the rift. The rift is created pretty simply because of those personal reasons. As I told you, in every country, in every society, in every place, there will be a division of people according to the geographic location and the country that you are living in, the economic standards, and so on and so on. People will start taking sides. So in a democratic situation or any other situation, politicians or people who are ruling, they will play a numbers game. For them, it's always a numbers game. So whenever they can gain more votes, whether it's a positive or a negative towards global warming and climate change, it doesn't matter. They will take on that particular look. For example, one of the main things that developing countries are saying is countries that are in a higher position, which are already developed, countries in Europe, United States, Canada, now China, Japan, and those countries, all these countries took advantages of loose regulation that was there, especially when you start from the um, time period of the industrial revolution. United Kingdom and Europe and that area definitely p- used pollution polluting elements for advancing through civilization. When coming into United States, it's the same. They went through a smoggy period. They went through a very polluting harsh period before coming into this stage. The most recent example that can be given is China. China also went through such a stage. There were very famous smoggy conditions that were there in China because of the revolution that they are going through. But all after some time, they were able to adjust these things because they were able to propel their economies into higher standards. And after they reached that economic level, for them it was easy to clear it up. But nowadays, if you take India, the smog is still there. For them, they have to reach to go to that economic level, they have to go a long way. So countries like India or any other developing country, they depend they see that working to stop climate change or global warming by reducing pollutions, for them, for their economy, it is a disadvantage. The question that they will ask, the developing countries would ask is, countries and economies that are already developed exploited these lack of laws and systems where they were able to pollute their way through and climb up the ladder of the and create a great economy. Now the developing countries would argue, why should we risk everything in our economy and the hardships that we are having and start going through these regulations and say we are doing our part to save the world. It would be much more easier for them to use the same tools, same polluting tools that were used by countries that are already developed to develop their economy as well. And they would argue that countries that are already developed have already gone. There are countries from Europe to United States to China, Japan, and these set of countries to put more effort and more wealth, do more sacrifices as more than developing countries. In a sense, that would be true. But herein lies the other problem. Taking drastic steps means it will be an impact for the economy. There will be extra expenses to be paid. It will be an extra step. And countries that are already developed does not like to compromise, and they are afraid that their economies will drop because of this. And that compromisation is, they don't like to make that compromisation as well, because most of these countries depend on oil, depend on pollutants to maintain in their economies. And for them, the argument that they make is their economies are so powerful and so many people are depending on it, it just destroying the current system to make a global warming go away, or climate change go away, is not plausible. And so everybody here as countries are being selfish. Of course, this is a politically motivated thing, because doing things to protect the environment, taking down businesses to protect environment, putting in more and more regulations to protect the environment, making life hard, it will make life hard for the people. So politicians would not like to make life hard for the people. So in that sense, the selfishness is a problem that is there when trying to give answers to global warming and climate change. Then of course, again, the politics will play on to protecting industries that will drastically increase the speed of global warming and climate change. Countries that are producing oil, that are producing coal, we are talking about huge numbers of GDP and economies of countries, and whole countries depend on this. Just by stopping oil itself, lot of economies will go down. So we cannot say they are being selfish, because if economies go down, there will be revolutions, there will be bloodshed, there will be hardships, people will die because of hunger, war, famine, all these follow through it. So it's a balancing act. It's not easy, because again, politicians though they play the numbers game, people who are in positions to make decisions have to think of both ways. Destabilization of global politics is not a risk that decision makers are willing to take while finding answers to global warming or climate change. This is something very necessary, because think of the politics that is needed to be done. Let's say there's country A and B next to each other. One country exports oil, coal, and their whole economic system is built on this. We will call that country B. Country A, of course, is living on farming and those things. So climate change affects country A, and because we were not going to stop climate change, the economy of country A will drop. The country will suffer, the currency will lose its value, the economy will collapse, revolutions will start, the country will be destabilized, different factions will try to take in power, maybe there will be branches of terrorism coming in, and this will also affect country B as well. So that means then refugees will also start coming from country A to B. There will be a big disaster for humanity. So protecting country A is important, but that can be done only by addressing global warming and climate change. But if to address global warming and climate change, then we must stop production of oil and coal. But if that happens, country B's economy goes down. The country's value of currency will depreciate, the economy will go down, jobs will be lost, revolutions will start, and so on and so on. It will go through the same process that A will go if we don't address climate change. And again there will be a humanitarian crisis there. Refugees will start from country B to country A. There will be maybe terrorism that will affect country A. So how to make decisions really is hard. For the news, it is good politics to show people shouting, saying in global warming and protect us, and another set of people is shouting there's no global warming, in what are you saying? But the true nature of the society and the politics that are needed to be played is immensely complicated, and when you take it in a global scale, it would be incredibly hard to do it. So as humans, the steps that we have taken is quite impressive in a world like this. We are slow. One of the other problems that is there is we are slowly moving, but our production capacity and our technology still haven't met the speed that we need to protect ourselves from global warming as well. This is also a problem that is there today. So as you can see, there is a lot of things that, when coming into global warming and climate change and politics involving, these things would be personal as well as societal, country, economy, everything gets affected. So the politics when coming into global warming and climate change is not easy. Though we think it is destructive from one side, it is destructive from the other side. So what is the main problem is this: to do a balancing act between these two, the economy, the society, education, countries, wealth, and how developing countries want to develop and give a good life to the people that is there in developing countries, and developed countries want to keep their wealth and to keep their businesses and to maintain the good life they are having. The transitioning process should be a slow one, but if we start transitioning from harmful, polluting methods to much more peaceful methods to live in harmony with the environment, we need to do it quickly. But if we are going to do it quickly, it will affect the economy, personal politics, and national politics. This is the problem, because global warming is predicted to happen very quickly and we are running out of time. And the issues that are there are so much, it is very hard to bring everybody into one single table and talk about it. Because when coming into national politics, every country is trying to look after themselves, so it is going to be a selfish game. When coming into national politics or countries, it's going to be an individual game, how each society, how each person is going to be affected negatively or positively from global warming and climate change. And this effect, which is negative and positive, will affect the decision of that individual person. Thus change will depend, the national politics will depend on that individual person's thought set, whether they are pro or against global warming and climate change. So it is a very complicated story that is needed to be addressed from different angles that even one person cannot comprehend, because for each geographic location, for each country, it is vastly a different thing. Thus itself lies the problem. It is much more complicated than we think. So one thing for sure, that talking about climate change and global warming is a divisive topic. It will divide humans into groups because of different reasons, not mainly science, economy, political matters. Personal effects actually have an effect in the decision making process. So to tackle such a high profile and complicated topic is the approach that people who are looking for action against climate change and global warming, are they making the correct approach? Well, to finalize things on this ramble, I would like to propose my view on this matter. First of all, it is about taking everybody into one page. Well, this can be done rather than talking about this is the fault of human beings and that we want to demolish those activities that are done by humans to change the environment. We find there are two factions which believe the same thing, that the climate is changing, but one says it's changing because of human beings and the other say it is changing because of natural causes. But the end product would be the same. They both these factions agree that the climate is changing, and both of them would agree that the climate change is affecting humanity in a negative way. Thereby, we can come to common grounds when coming into climate change, whether man-made climate change and global warming or naturally made climate change and global warming. The negative effects of this climate change and global warming are there for humanity, and everybody would agree that we should preserve humanity to the future and we should act upon it. By approaching the target like this, there will be more people looking forward to working together to look into what are the problems that are there. One of the examples are the rising tides or the rising sea level. This affects every human being, whether they believe on human-made global warming or artificially or naturally made climate change and global warming. So they can all work together on different solutions according to their belief. Whatever it is, it would be looking into answers for one particular problem by getting together. This, of course, will be a positive thing. For example, people who says that this is man-made climate change and global warming, they can look into answers to reduce the temperature by stopping pollution and taking necessary steps to take the carbon dioxides and other gases that will heat up the atmosphere down to earth by maybe planting more trees, making technological progress to clean the environment. While the others who believe that this could be a natural thing rather than a man-made thing, because let's face it, the sea level is going up, that is not in debate. So the people who believe that humans are not responsible but this is a natural phenomena, they can look into answers for protecting our seashores, our cities, towns, villages, property that is near the sea, how this will affect, how to protect these properties is from the sea, that side of it, because both sides have to be seen. And by coming into common ground, see, we can answer many questions at the same time, because not only cleaning up the environment, because while cleaning the environment, it will take a few years, decades to properly clean up the environment, meaning that the seas will rise during that period and necessary measures should be taken. See, approaching the target like this, giving in each person's voice a chance to work out and try to resolve a problem, basically we can tackle this whole problem as a, a, a society. This is one of the aspects that we can see, rather than dividing into two and arguing about what is the actual reason for climate change or global warming. We know that this is happening and evidence is there in front of our eyes. There are more storms, patterns of weather, unpredictability there, uh, from the crops to the melting of the glaciers. These are things that people who are living in earth can actually see and feel. There's no complicated science to learn about. There's nothing beyond a high school education to understand what's going on. It's basically a threat to humanity, whatever the form it comes from. And by letting in each team address each problem,
There will be long-term and short-term solutions provided to tackle the matter without any issue. Well, this will be one approach. The other approach is the economic approach. Let's face it, everything, as I told you before, everything is depending on the economy, whether the personal economy or the national economy to take decisions and all. Well, it is a fact. It is a fact that all developed economies at the moment had the advantage of exploiting the nature, whether cutting down trees for timber or extracting resources. So, if a country is to be taken seriously, and if a powerful nation wants to show its power, then I think it should lead by example. And we should expect these countries to uh, do more towards going into renewable energy and so on, rather than giving that burden to poor countries. But the economics play a different role now. For example, more the renewable energy sources come in, more the jobs are being created that side. Here's the thing: the economics, if you take it from a higher level, from this corporate level to countries, you can see countries in the Middle East are now expanding and investing rapidly in different sectors, because they know in the future oil is going to disappear. Whether it is global warming that stops the use of oil, or or the or just we keep on using oil till it goes off, it is a limited supply. So they are getting ready to change their economy accordingly. So that means that jobs are going to change. The future generations will not look into maybe mining of oil, working in the oil sector, or mining for coal, and so on and so on. Though this is a slow process, the actual economic impact is there. Each country will be looking into this in different ways. The Middle East will be looking to change their approach for using in economy based on uh, petrochemicals. They will change it because simply it's a limited supply. One day it will go all, like it will finish, and they have to still have a running diverse economy if they want to function without the social and economic destruction of the country. Then let's look at the economics of other countries that are not producing oil. Isn't it isn't it much more easier for countries that are not producing oil to move into renewable energy, to move into cars that are driven by electricity rather than fuel? Dependence of oil will be going off. The economy will get a boost because they don't need to buy oil from another country, and the leakage of money out from the country will be stopped. So looking at that way, rather than just looking at the uh, environmental benefits and uh, environmental benefits, looking at climate change and global warming, countries that are opposing, or the societies that are opposing these things, can still change because of, if they doesn't want to tackle it in that way, but the same results can be obtained attained by changing the economy, like trying to revive the economy, trying to make the economy strengthen by stopping the leakage of money out of the country because they have to buy coal or oil from a different country. So this could be a driving factor. The economy itself stabilizing, the strength of the currency would be a driving factor for countries to invest on renewables such as solar or wind, hydropower, or uh, putting fleets of electric vehicles into the street. So, still, the goals of the society is achieved. The goals of the environmentalists are also achieved. Uh, global warming and climate change can be stopped because the result is the same. But the mindset of the approach is different. So rather than pressurizing countries, especially developing countries, to tackle global warming or climate change, which they normally think that they are not or a part of it because they haven't still reaped the benefits out of it, uh, we can try another way around to maybe make the changes that is needed. The economic perspective is a perfect way to reach that. When time goes on, when more investment, more research is done on, especially on the renewable energy side, more of these things will be cheaper. More the cheaper it will get, more attractive it's going to be for the economy and for the investors who are willing to invest in the economy. So these are different approaches. Think about the world's top richest people, the 1%. There is a big criticism, whatever they say that they are doing to the environment, the amount of vehicles they maintain, the amount of houses, the buildings, the properties that they maintain actually consumes more energy than the average person, thus contributing more towards climate change and global warming. It's an unnecessary amount of energy that they consume. So let's say that if they were able to make energy cheaper, because for the top 1% it's always a numbers game. For them, like it doesn't matter what goes around them because they have enough money to maybe move from country to country. They have their personal jets, they have their personal modes of transportation. So it is hard for them to uh, convince them to change their habits or change their ways. The only way that is can be done by speaking the language they understand, the numbers game, the money. If energy is produced through solar panels much more cheaper, the 1% will of course install solar panels in their mansions. Thus, they will consume the same amount of energy to maintain their lifestyle but at a cheaper cost. As a byproduct, the environment will be saved, less coal will be burnt. This is the overall thought process. This is a different approach, but I think it's a valuable approach. But R&D side have to be much more funded towards this. Let's, for example, somebody comes up with electric planes. Now electric planes are there on testing stage. The very first few planes that will be coming out would be small size crafts which can be used as personal planes. So let's say the person, if it is much more efficient in costs in coming into maintenance, the top 1% will definitely buy those electric planes because it's less cost rather than using jet planes. So for them it's always a numbers game. But for people who cares about the environment, I'm not saying that the person is not caring about the environment, but what I'm saying is to maintain their lifestyle, right? To maintain their lifestyle, they will do it. They can still maintain their lifestyle, which in a cost reductive way. Thus, all the people who's in the 1% will be pushed to buy electric planes rather than using fuel powered planes. So it is an interesting thought. It's a different approach. It's a way that I think environmentalists should approach it, because this world is made out of environmentalists would say that our breath is the most important thing. It should be pure, and we are working to make it pure. Yes, as much as the air we breathe is important, the next thing that the world is run on is money, the economy. The top 1% works in that mindset. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they produce, for example, Elon Musk produce electric cars to save the world or to increase the stock prices. What would his initial intention be? See, think about it for a moment. These are all years tech experts, yes, people who think about the environment, yes, people who think about humanity, yes. But before everything that I said right now, first they are businessmen, so the numbers game matter. So the environmentalists should approach these problems when they talk to the governments, when they talk to the authorities, when they talk to the institutions, when they carry out their mission. They should make an approach in an economic side, a tactical way of reaching their goals. So the first one was identifying that different groups, different mindsets are there in society, but the goal is the same, and to save humanity from ever-changing environmental features. If we make so, the first step is to using that common narrative to get together to provide answers long term and short term. The second one is trying to address issues that are there in climate change through economic eyes, through the numbers game, through the economic eyes. So countries, societies and people would feel it much more personally and try to make a difference. So what will be the third perspective to take to change people to work more towards saving the planet by stopping global warming and climate change? It is security, global security. When you are a developed country, a superpower, or a rising power, one of the things that is most important is security, global security, to maintain the economy, to maintain free trade, security is needed to maintain the economy itself. If security is needed, where there is security there's stability. Where there's stability, any society can develop without any problem. So security is the key. Now if you take United States, that in United States there are some Pentagon reports that shows how the climate change and global warming affects the security of the country. There are many aspects to it. Sometimes destabilizing of some regions, some countries, due to climate change, because of economics falling down, that will pose a threat to other countries. Terrorist groups and such things can occur and result in destabilization of regions and countries. So this is a countries like United States or any other superpower or any other rising power would see that climate change and global warming and climate change as a security issue, and rather than environmental issues, security issues in every country such as United States, Russia, China, the Europe, everywhere, the security issue is taken much more seriously rather than an environmental issue. So if the environmentalists wants a win, needs to work towards stopping global warming and climate change, then they can highlight the security issues that are there in the world. As we know, United States is or have already talked about this topic, and I'm pretty sure countries that are becoming superpowers and already are superpowers are their security forces should have strictly looked into it, because climate change would make a country destabilize. It will cause unwanted migration patterns. It will cause destabilization, thus affecting the security of the countries. So here's the interesting thing. The manpower of security forces and the budgets of the military budget can be used to help tackle global warming and climate change. They have the resources. Countries like United States, China, Russia, Europe, they have immense military budgets. Their R&D sectors are huge, and their R&D sectors are with capabilities of beyond on the knowledge that are there in the society, and that can be used to come up with new methods of maybe creating energy, handling maybe recyclable materials, so on and so on. So the potential is immense if utilized correctly. If the governments and the militaries look at stabilization of their country, or in another way, destabilizations of their country because of climate change is a fact, they can use all that manpower and the military budgets, all that might, to come up with solutions which will be a big plus for the environmentalist, for stopping global warming and climate change. Well, this is one aspect of the security matter. The other security matter is quite sensitive to any country. Let's take United States for instance. At the moment, United States, it is quite comfortable with their security is because they are producing their own energy. It's a self-sufficient country with energy. They are producing their they are producing their coal and their oil, and they are very much self-sufficient when coming into these matters. But as I told you before, oil and coal is not a everlasting thing. So in the future, United States will look into stabilizing in their country's security, their country's economy by keeping the status of self-sufficient in energy. They have to look into alternative methods, thus solar, wind, and so on and so on. So this theory applies to other countries as well. Take China, for instance. China have to rely on Middle East to provide their fuel needs, meaning that if they want to have self-sufficient security, it is much better for them to use electric vehicles. This is same for every country. When United States put in sanctions to one country, the main thing is the oil. If the oil blockade comes, the country grinds to a standstill. The security of the country degrades immensely. So countries will be willing to upgrade their security, their stability that comes from security, by moving into renewable energy. So in the future, this can be a driving factor. Environmentalists can be happy that either way things look positive in the future. But there is a time period problem right now, because the way that the amount that we are polluting the environment versus the time that we actually have to change. Whatever the situation in that side, one thing for sure, in the long run these changes will occur, but in the short run it's up to the people who actually care about humanity to take immediate actions. The sensitive topic of national security can be used to take these immediate actions. So these are the three aspects. Think about it. No country, no nation likes to destabilize. It's their economy and their security. So they will do whatever that is necessary, if by protecting the environment, by stopping climate change or global warming, if the economy and the security of the country, the stability overall of the country is there, they will do anything for that reason. So environmentalists, like, my suggestion or my mad ramble on global warming and climate change is, environmentalists not like should tackle this matter on all frontiers, not only science, data, and just by pushing and shouting. They should come up with plans, ideas, techniques to handle these overall situations in the social aspect, as I told you, because there is a part of climate change that everybody can see, whether the society is divided on human made or not. We can get both those societies together and try to come up with answers for it, together, long term and short term. So that's the social aspect of it, there's the economic aspect of it, there's the security aspect of it, especially the economic aspect and the security aspect is two of the most strongest points that can be there. And environmentalists should also educate, uh, keep moving forward, spread their word, keep on the debate going on those sectors as well, because let's face it, uh, whether global warming or climate change is they are man-made or not, it is something that will affect every activist towards climate change and global warming should help the politicians to make decisions by balancing all these sectors. Then there will be progress, definite progress. As I told you, the climate change is something that is there whether we like it or not, whether man-made or natural. Climate change will happen. History has given many examples fallings of civilizations due to man-made climate change or natural climate change. And if we were to thrive as a civilization, we should accept that climate change is a challenge and we should face it head on to survive. And I think this can be achieved because humanity thrives through a lot of things. We have gone through a lot of hardships in the past, and I think end of the day desperation will come into sense. If there is economic benefits to be reached by tackling climate change, I think this economic then the motivation is more if the economic gains are a lot. And step by step the natural route, the long term natural road would be a humanity that will live in peace and harmony with the environment, because all these oil and coal, these things will be ending eventually, and we have to find ways to survive, to generate the power we need and how to get new farming techniques for the growing population, so on and so on. There are so many things that will lead a natural path towards living peace and harmony with the environment. It looks like that, but right now the problem is that we are so much using resources and polluting the environment. The natural path will not help the survival of humanity, and we have to move forward very quickly. Well, this is 2020, I'm recording this, and that year showed that future is a thing that we cannot even comprehend. So the future is a dream that every human can dream of in different ways. But let's hope that we all dream for the best, and let's hope for a day that humans will be so developed that they will be able to live in peace and harmony and one with the nature. So that is it for the mad and long rumble about global warming, climate change, and the politics that involves with it. Thank you very much for listening. Be safe, stay healthy. Ayubowan.